You know what's funny about this restaurant? I stopped working there because it burned down.
Oh, were you there?
No,
Okay.
but I closed the night that it burned down.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times Good Stories podcast. My name is Joe Flanders and I am super excited to have you here today as I talk with Jeremiah Watkins, who's a really awesome, talented, amazing, fantastic comedian. He performs regularly in LA and elsewhere. You can catch him at the Comedy Store all the time. He's also regular on Kill Tony. He also has his own podcast called Jeremiah Wonders. Great stuff. And we are talking about the shitty jobs that he had growing up. And we laughed a lot talking about it. From a Italian restaurant where he was yelled at by his boss for something pretty ridiculous, to car wash and Starbucks, and even some good times doing morning radio as a 19-year-old, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's a great conversation with Jeremiah. I appreciate him coming on. If you enjoy the episode, feel free to rate it on iTunes. Give us that 5 stars. That would be greatly appreciated. You can also email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Share some of your bad times that hopefully made for good stories, and I may just read it on the air. Lastly, you can check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page. I really appreciate anything you can throw my way if you enjoy the show, even if it's just the equivalent of a cup of coffee, or hell, even one of those new 99-cent Taco Bell burritos, which I totally haven't tried, and they're totally not awesome. But that's all I've got for now, so without further ado, here's my conversation with Jeremiah Watkins.
Have you ever won one of those food challenge things? Gotten
you?
a T-shirt or or your face on the wall or anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't. I strive to. I think that, if that's all I'm remembered for my entire life, I think I could be happy with that.
There's some people out there that's their biggest accolade.
Right,
Is
exactly.
making the wall in a restaurant. Yikes.
I did make it on the wall in high school for never allowed to come back.
What'd you do?
Dine and dash.
In high school?
Yeah.
Bad boy. Dude, I walked out on a $3.50 tab.
Yeah,
dude.
it was a fucking Chinese buffet.
That's
it was
so
like $8. It was such a
You're like,
idiot.
I took an extra milk carton because you know how I get down.
Yeah, and the guy actually, I was leaving with a couple of friends. It was like near the high school, and he actually ran after us, and my friends were like sprinters.
That's like the only place where they're probably allowed to do that. Is
Right.
run after you. Because like in every other business scenario, they're like, do not chase after them. Your safety is more important. But in a school environment, they're like, no, you need to teach this kid a lesson.
Yeah, this punk ass. So yeah, my friends just booked it because they were on the track team, and I looked like this, so it was just easy. And then he dragged me back. I mean, not like I wasn't. But yeah, he shoved me back into the restaurant and then took a Polaroid of me.
Whoa.
And that was like my sophomore year. That was like the hangout spot. So I tried to sneak in a couple times. No.
You were banned after
Yeah.
sophomore year?
Yeah.
That could have changed the trajectory of your life, man.
I know, man. Like, seriously. One time a girl asked me if I wanted to, asked if I wanted to go to the restaurant after school, and I had to be like,
You're like, I'm banned there, baby.
Yeah.
We got to go out by the flagpole if you want to make any moves on this guy.
yeah, we can just go to the Wendy's if that sounds good.
Yeah.
No? Okay. I'll never talk to you again.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's the only wall I'm on. How about you?
I mean, technically, the only wall that I'm on is at the Comedy Store. I'm on the wall at the Comedy Store.
I mean, I'd say that is fairly more significant than my wall experience.
I mean, it
Just
definitely
fairly.
it definitely was harder to get my name on that wall than to walk out of a restaurant for sure.
Yeah. Wow. When did that happen?
In 2016.
Damn.
Yeah, in September 2016 is whenever it actually went on. So
How long have you been performing there?
I've been there since July of 2011. Every week since then.
Wow.
So yeah, going every week and hitting it hard.
Damn, dude. Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, had to feel good.
Oh
I would
man,
imagine.
one of the biggest accomplishments that I've completed. It was very, very hard.
Yeah, I bet. When did you start performing with Kill Tony and all that?
I think that was probably, I want to say 2.5 years ago. Some of the early episodes, I've been buddies with Tony for a long time, so I was like in one of the first episodes as a panel guest.
Okay.
And then like I would guess they used to have this thing, this character called the Iron Patriot that was on way before the Kill Tony band, where it was this guy who literally dressed in head to toe in full like movie quality Iron Patriot garb.
That's awesome.
And he was the security guard for the show. And he had a little falling out with the show, so they started putting people in this Target Iron Patriot outfit. There was just like these little gloves and lights and like a little voice modulator,
Yeah.
like clipped to a belt, like a Fisher Price kind of Radio Shack kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they would rotate that Iron Patriot every week. So I did that a couple times, and then eventually the band came later with like Pat Reagan and Joel Jimenez, then Chris
Yeah.
Dillon, and yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
For the audience who may not know, how would you kind of describe Kill Tony? It's like it's not an open mic. I mean, I guess it is because you sign up for spots, right?
In a way, yeah. I consider it very much a variety show
Yeah.
because there's so many elements to what's going on. But comedians, basically, they put their name in a bucket. Whenever they get randomly drawn, they have 60 seconds to perform in front of a panel of comedians. And then I'm in the band. It's like a late night band, but we commit to different characters every single week. And, depending on how well the comedian does or how bad they do, heavily affects how the interview goes.
Right
After that.
after the set.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then where can people find that? Is it just Kill Tony podcast? Or
Type it on YouTube. Yeah, go to killtony.tv, and that has all the episodes from episode 1 to episode 313 or
Wow.
however many we've done so far. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're killing it now, but you mentioned that wasn't necessarily always the case, and maybe you've had some shitty jobs.
Oh yeah,
growing
for
up,
sure,
or-
man. Whenever I lived in Kansas, that's where I'm from.
Okay.
I had a string of bad jobs, and then whenever I moved out here to California, I worked at Starbucks for 2.5 years before I started like being able to fully
Do the comedy.
do the comedy.
Yeah.
And but one of the first jobs that I had that was just, I remember this super cringy moment where my uncle had gotten me a job. It was my first job at this all men's golf course. No women were allowed. That was that was part of the program. Is so you wouldn't see any women anywhere. And this is Kansas, like kind of in the middle of nowhere. This is like far out, like southern Kansas. So it was like almost like a whites only club. Like I rarely saw black people there or any like there's like some groundskeepers who were Hispanic or whatever, but it was pretty much a whites only club.
Wow.
Like, and it's kind of still, I don't know if that's still how it is today, if that's still the policy. I think it is. I think it's just like an old school, like it's a boys club.
Was this an unwritten thing, or does it actually say like no
well,
women allowed?
I don't know if they are allowed
Right.
to do that, but like I don't know the wordage or however they can get around it, but there was no women allowed.
Wow. Okay.
Like the wives were like, I think they were allowed out there for like special holiday dinners maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as play, you never saw a woman on the golf course.
Wow. Okay.
So my uncle had gotten me this job. He is he's like an amateur golfer. He's like competed like semi-pro, like won a ton of tournaments.
Okay.
Has a lot of accolades in golf.
Sure.
So he got me this job. I'm wanting to make sure I, fit
Yeah,
in
there's a lot of
there.
pressure there.
There's kind of a lot of pressure. And it's my first job.
So what were you, like 16, 15?
Yeah, like 15, 16
Okay.
around there. And I was basically, I would caddy for like on foot, like no golf carts.
Oh, God. Okay.
And I would do it for, 9 holes sometimes, 18 holes sometimes. And if you don't know anything about golf, it's a lot of mileage on your feet.
Yeah.
And without a golf cart, it's very hard, like especially like in the midst of like summertime and stuff like that. And being 16, like I'm weak, like I'm not
Sure.
like fully
Yeah.
developed. I'm carrying these like giant golf clubs and everything. And I remember this one moment where it was like 6:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I was pumped that somebody had picked me to caddy, and they knew my uncle personally. And on the first hole, before we even go down, is this really steep hill, right?
Yeah.
And I'm walking down with giant bag of clubs. And
Okay.
as soon as I start walking down the hill,
Yeah.
I slip
Oh.
and like literally go completely midair
Oh,
where
no.
I'm completely parallel to the ground, like, and the clubs are just like, just like falling. And I slammed down on the hill. And it was one of those moments where everybody turned and looked and went, ooh. And the guy who was going to hire me, he's like, hey kid, it's okay if you don't want to caddy today. And this was the first hole because he saw, like, I landed, the bag went underneath my back and I landed on the bag.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's okay. I can do it. Just like in the back of my mind, just being like, my uncle's gonna hear about this, and he literally heard about it within minutes. Like, by the time I had gotten to the 9th hole, and like that was like the middle point,
Right.
He's like, heard you took a spill in the first hole. Like everybody like knew each other's business.
You
at
hear
this
about
club.
the caddy that busted his ass?
Yeah. But I powered through it, and I did it, and I made the haver much money. Like
Did it pay
$50
fairly
or
well?
whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a
like,
15-year-old, I guess.
yeah, for a 15-year-old, it was like, this is good money. And then I look back, it's like, that wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think it's like a fundamental flaw in the golf system, which is that the weakest people are also the youngest generally, and they're the ones carrying the like.
Oh, yeah.
What would a bag weigh? You think like 40 pounds or something?
Probably.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't have, like, some of the bags don't have proper straps, they have pretty bad straps.
Yeah.
So you're weighing like 50 pounds or so while walking on one shoulder, and you can kind of put it on the other shoulder. But like the professional caddies, I think, have like, the cross,
Right.
whatever, for support for you to
Like those
carry a bunch of
backpacking
weight.
bags
Yeah,
or something,
But, as a teenager, you're just like lugging it along, and then this shoulder's going dead after a while. And then you're like, okay, I guess I got to switch to this other shoulder. And then that one's going dead. And then you're trying to like just switch it back and forth. Yeah, it's a mess.
Wow. How long did you do that?
I did that like, I think less than a year.
Sure.
I went to this Italian restaurant afterwards.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good job, but the boss at that job would it was a very authentic Italian restaurant. The food was really good there, and this guy had like this strong like Italian temper. Like if things didn't
Happened the way,
if things didn't line up the way that he exactly wanted them,
Right.
and he would get drunk by the end of the night. Like he'd be one of those guys who he's really fun to be around. Like while the night's going on, he'd drink with the customers. Hey, how's everybody doing over here? You doing good? Good. All good stuff. But by the end of the night, he'd been drinking all night. So like whenever we're cleaning up and stuff, he'd be like, you didn't do this earlier in the night. And you're like, I'm 16. I'm trying to, I'm sorry. I'll do better. And there's this time where we would hide this little statue, the chef. We'd hide the chef around this restaurant. And if the kid could spot it, they would get a free chocolate chip cookie. It was like this little gimmicky thing.
Sure, yeah.
And I forgot to move the chef one of the times.
Yeah.
And he just went off on me because this little girl, he pulled me aside. He goes, Jeremiah, can I talk to you for a second? I had this little girl come in today, and I asked her if she knew where the chef was, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, I know where it is. They don't really move it around here very much. It's right there." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Do you know anything about this?" like very, very like mob like, and I'm like, I might have forgotten to move it, and he like slams his like fist on the counter. He's like, "How many times do I gotta tell you to move the chef?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll remember moving it." Seriously, this is a bigger deal than you're making out of it. The kids come in here. They want to get their cookies. Move the chef to a different spot. It's not that hard. And I'm just like shaking. Like as a teenager, whenever you get yelled at like that, it's like really damaging.
Well, yeah, especially by like a deranged, angry, alcoholic Italian man.
Yeah.
Who, like, you saw 30 minutes ago, like,
Be the
yucking it
nicest
up.
guy. Well, he was the nicest guy until the end of the night.
Right.
It was like werewolf. Like he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?"
Yeah.
Are my legs about to be broken like casino style right now? What's happening?
Yeah, there's always, I always love moments like that where the intensity matches a casino moment.
Oh, dude.
But the actual subject is absurd.
Dude, I mean,
You know,
yeah,
like-
like I'm making salads and running like bussing tables and stuff. Like the setup was very low stakes because they ordered at the counter of this Italian restaurant, and then you
Okay.
would take it to them,
Yeah.
and you would give them their drinks, and you'd bus and do all this stuff. But
Like, how big was the? I mean, I can only imagine there's only so many places for a miniature chef to go.
dude, it's not a huge restaurant. Like, and he would want us to get creative, put it on like get up on a ladder and put it in different places and stuff.
Yeah, I get it. but
Nice
it's-
family though, very nice.
Oh, I'm
family.
sure, and I don't mean to say he's a raging alcoholic, but it sounds like he's just got.
No, I caught him in some bad moments.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any others you want to share?
Well, so what's
that?
funny about this restaurant is I stopped working there because it burned down.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Were you there?
No,
Okay.
but I closed the night that it burned down.
Oh,
So
wow.
they asked me like what happened.
Oh, God.
Because me and another guy were the ones who closed it. But they found that the cause of the fire was something happened where there's a short in the digital cash register. It's like an old cash register.
Yeah.
It literally started sparking and shooting out flames. And then it just went up the wall and it burned down almost the entire restaurant. So I went to school and I'm scheduled to work that day.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy who was like, "Hey, Watkins, I heard your job burned down." I was like, "What is that? What are you talking about?"
Right, yeah.
My job burned down. He goes, "I saw it on the news last night." I was like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Where you work, that Italian restaurant, you work here, right?" It's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, there was a fire there last night. It's gone." And I'm like, "What? No way." And I drive by there after work. Windows are all boarded up. I don't have the contact number. Like, I only have the restaurant's phone number.
Right. You don't have like a.
I don't have, I'm not friends with anybody outside of work where I have their cell phone number. Also, at this time, I don't even know if I had a cell phone number because I was like 17 at the time.
Right.
And I didn't get my cell phone until I was like maybe 18, 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Like that was like when only like the really privileged kids in high school had cell phones. And I was just like, I don't really need a cell phone.
Exactly.
And I got that flip phone and I was like, freaking balling around here. That
Yeah.
T-Mobile sidekick.
Oh,
dog.
you had the sidekick.
Yeah.
I had the razor. you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, my buddy had a Razor.
Yeah.
First, I had a Nokia flip phone, and then I upgraded later to the Sidekick.
Nice. Which one did you prefer?
The Sidekick, man, dude, it's like the switchblade of phones. Like,
Yeah, it really was.
hey, do we got a problem here? Yeah. So at that job, so because of that situation, they didn't get a hold of me for months.
Really?
For months. So I just literally lost my job overnight.
Wow.
And they said that all of the books and a lot of their recipes and stuff actually burned up in that fire. And they met with me months later and they had to give me like loss of wages checks because it's like unlawful for a company to just drop you like that.
Yeah.
And they you know, it was just a freak accident kind of thing. So they just gave me a few checks and they're like, "Do you want to come back to work here?" And I'm like, "I'm working at this car wash." now. So, and I'm actually making a little bit better money, and I was just thinking to myself, like, and I don't get yelled at that often. I do occasionally, but not like rage filled like that.
That's nuts. Did you ever, since you closed the night before, did you ever have to like? Was there ever any report filed or anything, and you had to like answer questions?
No, I
or
just
anything?
got like down the line they asked me about it, but it was one of those things where the firemen like they see causes of fire so
Right.
much that they're like, we think it happened at this time of night, and that was hours after we'd
Sure.
already left, and
Yeah.
they're like, it's the register for sure. You had to shorten this register. So it's just one of those things where I happen to be the guy with
Yeah.
another guy who closed, but.
Boy, that's good that they had like such a definitive like understanding of what happened. So then nobody was like looking.
Oh
at
yeah,
you
like trying to
weird.
pin the crime on a 17-year-old Jeremiah, and then meanwhile in the background he's like, "I told you to move the chef. What are you doing, huh? I'm pinning this all on you, all because you didn't move the freaking chef. That little girl needed that cookie, and you let her down. Now you're gonna be in bars for life, I tell you."
Yeah. Or if he was just like doing, he's just decided he was so angry that he was like gonna pull a not a double indemnity, but yeah, burn the place down for insurance money and pin it all on the kid.
Yeah,
You know?
and I pull a double jeopardy once it opens back up. Once I get out of jail, and I do burn it down this time, but I'm like, I can't be guilty of the same crime twice. But they're like, well, that's different because this building exists again. It's not a person. I'm like, oh, I'm going back to jail, and they're like, yes, you are. I'm like, no. Yeah, I love that movie,
Shit.
Double Jeopardy,
Right?
classic.
Oh, it's fantastic. What I was just watching Face Off the other day.
Dude,
Oh,
I love that movie.
it's so great in the sense that it sounds like the pitch to me was created by like two stoners at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Like they were watching, I don't know, Leaving Las Vegas or some other movie that had Nick Cage in it, and then they were like, "Oh, there's John Travolta." Like it was just like, what if his face was on his face?
Yeah. My buddy,
And then they made a movie about it.
My buddy Eric has this company called Meth Syndicate where he makes like funny T-shirts and stuff, and he's got these custom. I think he sells them. They're these custom slip-on vans that are the two faces of John Travolta and Nicolas Cage on a shoe. Like it's literally side by side. Whenever you put your left foot and right foot together, it makes the face-off poster. It's pretty dope.
It's a dedicated following of the Face Off shoes. Okay, so you go from burned down Italian restaurant to car wash.
Yep.
So fire to water.
Yep. Fire to water. There you go.
How was that?
That job was actually like there was really, really bad situations and moments, but overall, I made good money at that job because the harder that you worked at that job, the more tips you made. So if you hustled, you could make a lot of money. Even though it was like a minimum wage, like waiter kind of scenario for the base pay. But if you hustled, like you'd add up tips. And there was a bunch of characters that worked there that I'll never forget. Like some of the people who worked at this job because they were just so. You would see some people last a long time, and then you'd see other people who would last one day,
Right.
because it was a hard job. It wasn't an easy job. So there would be you get like very shady characters working there. So I remember this one guy who I think he was a crackhead, like legit crackhead, because I introduced myself. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jeremiah." He goes, "Hi, I'm Chris. I mean Derek." I was like, yeah. And he lasted one day. I think he needed tip money and to go get more crack.
Oh, okay.
Like this is I've never had anybody like change their alibi right in front of you with their name. Like, oh, this guy's like a murderer or something.
Yes. Yeah. Chris is a murderer. Derek is a nice guy who works at
I'm
the.
like, what's okay? Is this a split personality thing? You just trying to cover your tracks here? Like, what's going on? Yeah, that was very weird. There's this one dude who worked there who that's what made it hard. It's like you either had really good people like that you trust and that you're like friends with for years there, or you worked with really shady people who you couldn't trust at all. You didn't know if they were stealing tips from you because only one person is usually calling the car out to talk to the customer.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're pocketing money, and then
Right.
be like, "Hey, man, we got stiffed." That's what you'd always say if you didn't get a tip, like
Yeah.
after you worked on somebody's car. We got stiffed, man. Or we'd have this system called it was like the one up, one down system. If it was only $1 tip, someone would be like, "I'm one up on you." So the next time we do a car, like if we get $3, you get 2, I get 1, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's this one dude who, this is like one of the shady characters who is a good example of like the kind of people who work there. There was this guy who would openly admit to stealing the change out of people's cars. So like if there was any change
Yeah.
in the console of the car, he would take a scoop. Like every car. To the point where this guy was legit crazy, and he had a jug of stolen money from cars, and he's like, "This is my vacation money." He's like, "I'm gonna buy a trip with this stolen change." Like,
It's just there for everyone to see.
I'm openly admitting, and then like every once in a while, a customer would be like, "Hey, did some change missing?" He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So you'd have some really honest people who work there, and then some other people who, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about those like early jobs where it's like basically a minimum wage job, but you're working with like older people.
Oh, these were older people,
Yeah.
for sure.
Exactly.
These were guys who like, they were probably close to pushing 30. Like, but for that's a huge age gap for somebody who mostly is working with other high schoolers or college students.
Exactly.
So whenever you're pushing 30 or you're around there, like that's like the old guy.
Right.
Like if I went and got a job at that car wash now, I would be the old guy for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
They almost exclusively hire those high school kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because then you just wonder like what are the situations of all these like, where are you at life if you're 30 at a car wash? Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's just what you like doing or whatever. But yeah, I'm sure you end up with all sorts of interesting characters that are just like all over the map about like what's your backstory here?
Yeah.
How did you end up here?
Yeah.
Like that would be a question I would ask a lot to myself.
we would get caught all the time for stealing taquitos out of the because there's a gas station connected to this car wash.
Sure.
And we'd have different managers come in where like that was like part of the livelihood of working there. It's like the free fountain drinks and if you could cop a taquito. To the point where a manager who came in who is wanting to change things around every day, he put a lock on the taquito glass that a manager had to open up after a while because so many we were going through boxes of taquitos. Like they would go back and check and be like, "Hey, can you change out taquitos?" And one of the cash registers would be like, "We're out." And he's like, "What do you mean we're out? That we have 3 more months of taquitos." And we're all like,
ooh.
Meanwhile, all of us had just eaten like 3 taquitos each.
Oh God! I just love again. I that's like a conversation I'd love to. If somebody was really angry about taquitos, like and they were shouting at somebody the same way the Italian guy.
Oh yeah.
Again, that's another. That's why my early jobs, like grocery stores and movie theaters, I had similar experiences to that, where people would be like angry with me, and I just couldn't take it seriously.
Oh no.
Which, I mean, just made me a shitty employee and a dickhead to work with, probably.
Yeah.
But I just was like aware of how little this matters.
Oh, dude. And some of the stuff that we would find in people's cars is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like what? I remember seeing a live mouse once in somebody's car. A used tampon that was just like exposed in the back seat. Like just people's underwear, like all like the gross stuff that people just leave in their car is unbelievable. And like that was like one of the hardest parts of the job was whenever you'd be on like on vacuum duty, going to vacs, you would not make any tips because people tip at the end. They don't tip at the beginning of when they drop off the car. So you just be down there for hours just vacuuming and just sweating profusely and mad that you're on this duty because you're not making tips.
Yeah.
And you would just meet the weirdest people. Like I remember this one chick would come in. I think she was on Molly or something. Now looking back on it, now that I like know what that is,
Yeah.
she would come in and she would make out with employees. Like literally,
In lieu of a tip, I will.
dude, exactly. Like literally, is like, hey, I'm gonna drop off my car. It's like, okay, and the guy's like, yeah, and she's like, thanks. And then she just start making out with the guy. Meanwhile, I'm like, what is going on right now? Is this gonna be the tip? Because I didn't get any of that. I still want a tip at the end of this. And yeah, it's just
Did she ever choose you?
no.
Did you want her to?
Of course I did. I was like a blossoming Jeremiah. I'm like, why do I never get chosen? I never was on the driver's side when she came in. I was always on the passenger side, so I'd be like just watching, like, okay.
So this was like full service car wash.
Yeah, we did
right?
details, we did waxing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you spend like an hour or so detailing a car, and if somebody didn't tip you, then I would just like go crazy. Like I sometimes have a temper after a while. Like I'm usually very nice and kind to people, but after a while it builds up and I kind of get explosive.
Yeah.
And that would happen like at the car wash. Like I'd be like happy all the time, like things are going good, and it's like, oh, that person didn't tip, okay, not a problem. And then it's like, oh, another person did, okay, oh, 5, 6 people, 7. Oh, I just worked an hour and a half on this car and I didn't get tipped. Are you kidding me? Like kicking over barrels of towels and stuff like that, and like chucking armor all the places. Then my manager it would be like I remember one time somebody like didn't tip me, and I'm like, they're driving away. I was like, come on. And there's still other customers on the lot and stuff. And my manager's like, Jeremiah, get over here. Let me talk. You can't act like that. You can't let things get to you like openly in front of people. There's going to be people who aren't going to tip you. You'll get the next one. Don't act like that. I'm like, I'm sorry. I just let the no tipping get the best of me. I'm sorry.
Just turn into a pro wrestler for a
Pretty
second
much.
there. Just throwing stuff.
Come on. Hitting other customers with fold-out chairs. Like, where do you get a fold-out chair from?
So during all these jobs and then, the upcoming, did you want a job? Like when your uncle got you that job, were you like, yes? Or was it like, God damn it?
Well, yeah, no, I wanted to make money because
Yeah.
I knew pretty early on that I wasn't going to be in Kansas forever. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to start saving for stuff, and I wanted to, I wanted to save for like a car and stuff like that. Like the car that
Sure.
I had gotten, like it was like an $800 car that my dad had like helped me buy, that I like gave him some money, and then he put in a little bit of money, and it was this car that we called the Cracura, because it was like this black like 1989 or 90 Acura that the previous owner had cataracts, and he ran it up on a sidewalk, so it drove like this, like it drove slanted, so anytime I went over a speed bump, it would just go and just bottom out. So I bottomed out whenever I would turn too sharply all the time, which I don't think it was street legal looking back on it.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, like if it went through a safety inspection, it probably like wouldn't have passed at all, and it didn't have air conditioning either. So I remember for whenever I graduated senior high school, I asked my dad, I was like, is there any way I could get a ride to graduation? I don't want to sweat through my dress shirt. Because everywhere I drove, I had to have a change of a shirt like hanging up, because I would sweat through in the summer because it gets so hot and the humidity is so bad in Kansas that I was like, could this be part of my graduation? Like that we go like together and we have AC on the way. My dad's like, yeah, that's not a big ask. Like he's like, why are you asking me like you're some indentured servant? I'm like, well, I haven't had AC in like a couple of years in my car, so I just don't want to, be sweaty for my senior graduation.
Yeah.
And then ironically, the car that my dad has sold a lot of cars over the years.
Yeah.
He's like, he's sold everything. But the car that my dad took us in was one of the cars that he was about to sell.
Okay.
And ironically, so it has AC on the way there. I'm like, oh, this is great. AC on the way to my senior high school graduation. Man, I'm really starting to make it. Ironically, on the way back, that car breaks down on the side of the highway right after I graduate high school, to the point where my uncle and aunt had to like give us a ride somewhere. The uncle who got me the job at the golf course,
Yeah.
I rode with him like after that, and we got out of there.
What a
after we were
beautiful
stranded.
metaphor for life after high school.
Yep. Like you're still just like, I'm on top of the world. And then just like it's like, oh, Jeremiah, your life is going to face a lot of challenges. Like, oh, you're wanting to move away from Kansas? Okay, well, here's your first wrench that's thrown in that plan.
So how long did you stay in Kansas after high school?
Just 2 years. I got my 2-year associate's degree. And
Nice.
I bounced pretty quickly after that. I graduated in like May or June, and I was in California by July.
Okay.
Yeah.
What jobs were you doing before you left?
So I stayed at that car wash, and I actually was working in morning radio
Really?
while I was working at the car wash.
Okay.
So those 2 years in college were still some of the busiest years of my life, because I was doing 18 credit hours each semester, which
Yeah.
is a lot if you've been in college. A lot of people take like between 13 and 15, but I wanted to get the degree done in 2 years.
Right.
And you have to like really load up to
Yeah.
finish a degree in the amount of time. So I got my arts degree. Hello, I use it all the time.
Every day.
It literally did nothing for me on my Starbucks like resume like that I turned in for that job. They're like, oh, cool. All right, so you're gonna make the same exact pay as anybody who dropped out or anything. I'm like, okay, great, perfect,
Awesome.
great. But I was working in morning radio, and that job was dope actually, because I got free tickets to concerts,
Yeah.
and stuff, and I was super young too. I was 19 at the time, working in morning radio in Kansas City, screening calls for like the alt rock radio station 96.5 The Buzz, and they're playing like Muse and Modest Mouse and like all that kind of music.
Yeah.
And I would basically every morning I would go in at like 5:45 in the morning, be out of there by 10:15, go home, or go straight to the car wash around 11 a.m., work until 3:30, 4 o'clock, go home, eat. My mom would have a dinner ready for me. I'd take an hour nap, and then I would go to college at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah. So from 5:45 in the morning to 10 to 11 p.m. at night, I was doing that most days of the week for 2 years.
For 2 years, and
Yeah.
then you moved out here.
Yeah.
What was what is morning radio like? I mean, as far as working there, like are the DJs just totally jacked up, and was it a lot of like morning zoo antics and all that kind of stuff? Or?
Kind of. I would do man on the street stuff, and then they'd do different bits with me. They did.
So you got on mic.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, dude, especially at 19, like
Yeah.
I had a radio name. I was Stedman.
Stedman.
Yeah, because the I actually got the job with a music video that I made.
Oh, word.
Yeah, like this old music video called "A Love Ballad for Oprah," where I made a music video about how I was in love with Oprah.
Yeah.
So the host of the show loved it. He thought it was really funny, and he was like, "Well, you have this love for Oprah. We're just gonna call you Stedman on the show, because Stedman is Oprah Winfrey's like significant other."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was Stedman on that show, and it was great. Like they did a lot of bits with me about being a virgin on the show, because they thought that was so fascinating. 19-year-old guy in morning radio, virgin, and I said that at the time I was like I was trying to wait until marriage to have sex, and he's like, well, when do you want to get married? I was like, closer to 30. He goes, you're gonna wait another 10 years? And that was the first time I really started thinking about, like, am I really committed to this no sex before marriage? kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
I grew up in a very conservative household until like my teens,
Mm.
and that's whenever the first time I started thinking like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna reach that finish line of no sex before marriage. And I ended up the woman that I married. She's actually who I lost my virginity to.
Oh,
So it worked out, but we had sex before marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how much longer did you last after that realization?
Another 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty
Okay.
good.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Lost my virginity at 22.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was 19.
There you go.
So,
Couple fellow late bloomers out there. Hey.
I'm curious, did it eventually just become like how soon after that realization did you meet your potential or who ended up being your wife?
So we met at the Second City whenever I was doing improv out here. Like I signed up for improv immediately, which was like the best thing I could have done whenever I moved to LA, just to get to know people.
Sure.
Because it is kind of hard to meet friends in LA if you're not connected to something.
Right.
And I just went all in and started taking classes and seeing shows at Second City. And I was friends with my wife for a year or two before we started dating.
Nice.
And she had a boyfriend at the time, and I was just like, that'll end eventually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I'll swoop in after that.
And that's what you did.
Organically. Yeah.
What was it about waiting until marriage that you were drawn to, I guess? Was it just the religious aspect?
I think that was just something that was so like harshed upon.
Yeah.
You know? Like whenever I was a kid, and like in church and stuff, like that was a big thing. If you didn't wait till marriage, you might go to hell. It was very the church that I grew up going to was very, very fire and brimstone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of memories as a kid being like terrified, like of if I do this, then I might burn forever. You know what I mean? Which is pretty
high
intense.
Stakes.
Yeah, high stakes. It was pretty intense for, anybody, but for a little kid, that's that's a lot.
Yeah, if you're sitting there like, am I going to go to hell if I eat this candy bar or whatever it is?
Well, so the stakes are really high. So I was a pretty model kid growing up. Like had a very beaver cleaver kind of upbringing until like teens, and then like family started like kind of doing their own thing and stuff like that.
What happened? Were they're just like, I'm over it?
There's just some stuff that happened that led to, my parents got divorced when I was 17.
Okay.
And around that time, like everything like kind of changed and like went 180. So it was just kind of bizarre. Everything that we had learned growing up had kind of just out the window.
Right, because were you taught like divorce is bad and all this
of course.
kind of stuff? Yeah,
all
I
that
would
stuff.
assume. Yeah.
Like I remember like being a kid and I'm like, how does that even happen? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how, if you get married to a person, then you're with them forever. That's just how things work.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then what kind of bad people are they? You know what I mean? Because it's kind of the judgmental energy that kind of gets taught to you whenever it's that high of stakes, whenever you're being taught that as a kid. So you start seeing things very black and white. So after that, like I've transformed so much as a person over the years because I feel like I've kind of lived on really both sides of seeing the really good parts of religion and the bad parts. So it's been very a lot of lessons learned.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, because I grew up Catholic and going to mass every Sunday and went to Catholic high school. I was public K through 8. And other than the guilt thing, which is there, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
But like I realized as an adult and talking with others, like we went to a very liberal Catholic church and I had no idea, like our music whoever, he was gay and no one even really thought about, like it was such a weird, and like our school we had mass once a month, but they didn't really push it that hard.
Yeah.
So I got this weird sort of in between where I just sort of figured out on my own, probably around the same time you did, but with less dramatic causes. And I was just like, yeah, this doesn't really add up. I just had all these questions, and then like the theology teachers would be like, well, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
What?
Like
Yeah.
where I'm at with it now is like I still pray every day. I'd say I'm like a very spiritual person, but I don't go to church anymore.
Yeah.
So I find, like, in my opinion, what I've found, it's way more important to be a good person,
Yes.
and be like kind to others than like be like, you have to believe this, this, and this, otherwise you aren't permitted into heaven. I find that pretty hard to believe.
Right.
That, if there is a God, which I do think there is.
Yeah, me too.
If there is, then he'd be like, no, you didn't believe in this
Right.
specific part of the Bible or whatever.
Right.
You're not allowed into heaven for eternity.
Right.
It's like, I find that pretty hard to believe.
As do I.
Going off the bad jobs thing. So whenever I was in California, I started working at Starbucks, like I had said, and I just remember this one, like, maybe one of the dumbest things I've maybe ever seen a manager, like in a like a higher power position, do.
Yeah.
At a job. So I'm just laughing thinking about how stupid this is. So we would have homeless people come in to Starbucks, and they would use the bathroom, and sometimes they'd trash it.
Right.
And one time, there's a homeless guy who took a giant dump in the alley.
Okay.
And this is a Starbucks in Beverly Hills.
Okay. That changes things.
We have celebrities coming in.
Yeah.
We have suits coming in, like agents, managers, all this stuff in this area. Very wealthy people, very much people who are successful at what they do.
Right.
So they're really trying to keep a certain image at this Starbucks, okay? They're trying to keep it really nice, really high up there. So there's a homeless guy who took a big dump in the alley, and the way that the Starbucks is set up is this little shop on La Cienega, and then right next to it is the alleyway. So you pull in basically on this side to valet. The Starbucks is in the middle, and then you pull on around through the alley to exit. So you have to go through that exit of the alley. You
Through the
have to
shit
go
alley?
through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he pooped in this alley. Like a lot of poop. So what I think would be the right move would, be to get gloves and probably some paper towels and stuff, and get some disinfectant after that, okay?
Sure.
This manager goes, he goes, I'm going to need he looks at it and he goes, I'm going to need a pitcher of hot water. And we're like, what? He goes, yeah, we gotta disinfect this thing. Dude, he takes a giant pitcher of hot water and starts pouring it over the turd.
Oh.
And it becomes a crap creek. There is poop water running everywhere through this alley. Makes it literally a bajillion times worse than it would have ever been if somebody would have just like gotten a ton of paper towels or even a garbage bag to scoop it up and just throw it in the
Like
dumpster.
you clean up dog poop or something.
No, exactly.
You know?
This guy keeps pouring hot water over it. It gets literally all over the speed bumps. People are driving through it with their tires. Poop is all over people's tires. And I'm just laughing because I don't like this job. So, like, I don't care about the company at all.
Right.
So I'm just watching this manager make this giant mistake, and I'm just, like, reaping all the benefits. Because I'm looking around, I'm like, is everybody else seeing this? This is the most ridiculous thing ever. Why would you put hot water on a turd and be like, yeah, this is the right solution to this problem?
How did he react when he realized he totally fucked up?
He saw through it. He never thought that it was a bad idea.
I love it.
He's like, this is it.
Yep.
I'm making a great decision here. He just kept on like refilling pitchers of hot water and pouring it on the turd as it like goes through. Ugh, it was so gross.
Oh man. Yeah, there's something I'm curious, like you said, you didn't really give a shit about the company. I'm always, and I think, and you were saying like at the car wash, you kind of have fits of rage. I'm that way. I used to be that way up until recently with people who worked at jobs that I know they don't care about. Like they're making minimum. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like if an order isn't made correctly or something like that. And I've gotten a lot better at it, because, especially with like airlines and stuff. Like that's the worst. But I'm wondering, did you have a lot of people who, would be like, "Oh, where's the manager? I'm going to report you," or anything like that?
Oh,
or...
dude, all the time I'd have people because I wasn't good at my job.
Sure.
But I was very friendly and I was really nice to all the customers, and that was, and all the coworkers that I worked with, I made them laugh all the time.
Okay.
And the girls who I worked with were like saints, and they literally told me, they're like, Jeremiah, as long as you keep making us laugh, it doesn't matter how slow you are. Because like the people who are good at those Starbucks jobs, they're quick and efficient.
Yes.
They get the order, they make the drinks really fast. I was never good at making the drinks fast, so I would just start literally sweating while people were looking over the glass, like watching me work. Like worse than, dude, I don't get stage fright. Like I've performed all my life in front of a lot of people in different scenarios, but that to me, having rich people look at you, see if you're going to make a mistake on their drink, was so much more pressure to me.
Sure.
Than doing live performance. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So they would put me on register because I was nice and friendly.
Yeah.
And I would just talk to people, and I would rarely mess up orders because there's way less mistakes to make, like with buttons. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Than ingredients.
Yeah. But they definitely thought, I think some people definitely thought that I was slow or something, like mentally slow. Yeah. But they would get mad at me and I'd just be like, all right, do you want your drink for free? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'll just give it to you for free because you're mad.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. And it would diffuse the situation immediately.
Of course.
And it worked, even though I probably wasn't allowed to be giving away as many drinks. I was like, here's a free drink coupon. Yeah. My bad. And they're like, it completely changed their attitude. I'm like, to me, like, it was never worth somebody yelling at me. I'm just like, here's the thing. I need to talk to you. I'm like, free drink. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like right away.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's all they just want validation for their troubles, I guess. Wow. That's funny.
I did this. I had this character that I would do for the girls that I worked with of this hot girl who would accidentally keep pooping her pants like uncontrollably, and she'd do like end up going to the floor and doing the splits and rolling around and stuff like that. And this is like on the floor at Starbucks, like while we were working, and the manager would catch me doing it occasionally, and she'd be like, get in my office immediately. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to make this, like, there's customers out there. And I'd just like be like a little like whipped like puppy dog. And then they'd be like, just ease up. All right. Just don't do that again. And then I'd do it again later. And
that's what I worked at a Kroger grocery store. And I started off as a bagger. And then when I was 15, I got promoted to cashier. Which, in hindsight, it's just funny that they trust 15-year-olds with like hundreds and hundreds of dollars in cash. There was a girl that I would make laugh by, each register had the intercom that the whole store would hear. So I'd get on there and just make noises. Mm-hmm. I'd just be like, "Rah!" and then hang up. Or
you're like, got him.
Yeah. And then the girl would laugh. Yeah. It was not my best material, I suppose. But then
it was before the writing came.
Yeah, it's just a guttural sound.
Same with my pooping pants girl for no reason. It's like, oh yeah, dude, I'm workshopping these characters. Can I showcase anywhere with this? No, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. No future here, but she's laughing.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, the manager hated it, and I would have similar conversations, where it's like you can't make random noises into the intercom.
Yeah.
The elderly people look confused. They don't know what's happening. This one guy did actually say, a manager was just like, there is a man who comes here every week who hears voices in his head. So when you do that...
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh.
Like,
That was
ooh.
when I actually did get kind of serious. Like,
You're like, oh,
but
serious
I still
issue.
kind of found it funny because I was 15. I was like, he thinks I'm the voice in his head?
Dude,
Well, I guess
I wish you would have found out what his name was. It's like, hey, Greg, gonna get that almond milk today? Bye.
put down the chili.
And just be like, nobody else can hear this, Greg.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. I think you should get some beef jerky on your way out, Greg. All right. Bye.
You've been good. Treat yourself to
Hey, tip the cashier.
yeah.
It's not traditional, but it'll make his day.
Yeah, Joe's having a rough time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd throw football. Me and a friend who also worked there, we'd throw footballs back and forth between the counters and everything. It was terrible employees. I gave them my 2-week notice, but then I didn't show up for the 2 weeks. I was still scheduled to work.
Oh, nice.
So-
I would do. We would have dance battles at the car wash.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
You like put down a little cardboard box?
No, the pavement was slick enough with the water
Oh, right,
where
right.
we all had, like work boots and stuff, so
Yeah,
we could
yeah.
all like it was slick enough, but also grippy enough where we could do kind of whatever we wanted, and yeah, good times. A lot of singing boy band songs and stuff like that, and yeah, just really just like. I look back at all my favorite anytime like that it was like good times at work
Yeah.
is basically what we as comedians do in circles outside of comedy clubs or comedy shows now, just like riffing.
Right.
Like it was like what before I knew what riffing was, like with other comedians.
Yeah.
Like just like hanging out and like joking about stuff. Like
Mhm.
those were all the really good times at like those jobs. This is like joking and like just expanding on a topic like, oh, well, what if this happened? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had the exact same. Yeah, most of my good memories are in that same vein. So when you got out here, while you were working all these jobs growing up, you were also performing? Or did you do like theater or what was your
So
into comedy?
at that point, I was doing a ton of filmmaking and sketches and music videos.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Was this pre-YouTube or right around when YouTube kind of popped?
So to timestamp it, it would have been right around where right before The Lonely Island got on SNL.
Okay.
Because they got on SNL, I think 2005.
Yeah, I think so.
So I was familiar with The Lonely Island before they got on SNL, just like a little bit. I'd like seen some stuff here and there, and YouTube wasn't huge yet.
Yeah,
It was just starting to become like a thing.
yeah. I remember because I remember that too. Like 'cause the idea of posting things myself I wasn't forward thinking enough to even like be
Right,
posting.
which I've had a YouTube channel now since I think I've had a YouTube channel since like 2006, I think,
Yeah.
or 2007.
I was 7. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. But basically, the sketches and music videos, like there was like, I remember E-Bombs World was way more popular
Yeah.
at the time than YouTube.
Yep.
Like here is the world, and
Mhm.
like all those old,
Homestar Runner. And all
yeah,
that
just
stuff.
all like the Numa Numa guy, like all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was making sketches and music videos in the broadcast program at my high school, which really hadn't been done too much. It was a lot of just news stories and like silly segments.
Right.
And I just really kept pushing. I'm like, no, I really think we should be doing like more like shorts and sketches and music videos.
Yeah.
Like there was only once a year they would allow like it was like a project to show music videos, but I was like, no, we should be doing that stuff like the whole year.
Yeah.
So me and a close group of friends, that's like what we did all the time, and that was some of the motivation for me working was actually me buying like camera equipment and stuff like that, and money for props or costumes or whatever for the different projects that we were working on and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
So that was my in as far as like right before I moved to LA. I was doing all that YouTube stuff and making a ton of shorts and sketches with buddies leading up to that. Even in college, And then I kept doing that for years. And I mean, I still do it, but it's one of those things where there was years where that was like I was making. Second City had this cool thing whenever I started where it's called 7-day shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the best exercises I've had to do creatively. Like the outside of now on Kill Tony, we do a new character or a different character every single week, and that's a big feat sometimes. Like coming up with a new character and trying to get a clear point of view on the character. That's always the hardest part.
Making like a fully formed,
making it fully formed and not like a two-dimensional thing where it's like I'm just dressed up as this thing
with a funny accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this 7-day shorts thing, you would be given a suggestion of a word, like at an improv show, and you had to make a 2-minute or less short based on that word in under 7 days. And they would screen the shorts every, I think, Saturday night at Second City, like of all the people who did it. And it'd be like a showcase.
Wow.
So you'd like be showing your stuff in front of, like other people who are like Chicago alumni or whatever, and then sometimes they would participate, and it was a great way of just like showing other people like that you're kind of serious about doing this.
Right.
And I did that for a long time and created like a bunch of sketches and music videos for that, and that was great.
Wow. When did you start doing stand-up?
I was doing stand-up as soon as I turned 21.
Okay.
Because I found out like way after I was 21 that you could technically do stand-up before that, but I knew that some of the bars and some of the establishments and stuff, like you have to be 21 to be inside. So I was like, it's just gonna be easiest if I just, So I was one of those New Year's resolution people where I'm like, I'm gonna start stand-up this year. And I started in January of 2010.
You've come a long way in 8 years. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I hit my 10 years in LA in July of 2019 because I moved out to LA in July 2010.
Yeah, it was September 2010.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And does it feel like it's been 10 years?
Sometimes it does, and then other times it's like, how?
I know.
How has it already been almost 10 years?
I know.
But then other times I recall the grind of like, becoming a paid regular at the Comedy Store and some different things that were really hard to kind of accomplish over the time being here. I'm like, it's been 10 years.
Right, yeah. And then those moments, it definitely feels like 10 years.
Yeah,
sure.
because, the amount of hours just put into for stand-up, just like either waiting to go up. I mean, that's so much of the job that people don't even, realize that that's such a huge part of it. Is like people just think that you just go up and then you're just done. But it's like the lead up to the sets is like, that's where the patience and the training comes in. Getting bumped all the time. And
I can only, especially early on. I assume you're just going to open mic nights and stuff. And, you got to like sign up 3 or 4 hours before the show and then just sit around and wait.
Make a night of it.
There's no even guarantee that you get there early enough that you're going to get on stage. I know we're kind of wrapping up, but when you think about the comedy struggle, the stand-up struggle from where you started to now, like, what are some things that pop into your head, whether it was like early traveling experiences or just rough shows you've done, because it is, it's easy to be like, oh, now I'm at the Comedy Store and I'm, killing it. But, for listeners, it's not like that happens overnight.
Yeah. Try to, there's so many bad, like, oh my goodness. I remember, I think I've only told this a couple times. I remember taking my mom to an open mic night because I didn't have any shows whenever she came in. This is very early on in my stand-up career. And it was when IO West still existed, Improv Olympic out here in Hollywood. And it was in the back, like a little black box theater, and there was probably 20 comedians or whatever, only comedians in the audience, all waiting to go up. Yeah. Very typical of LA open mics.
Yeah.
And I brought my mom, my sister, a couple neighbors to this freaking open mic. It's so cringy to even like describe like me like being like, you should come to this. I'm gonna be great.
I hope this was like their first time in LA. They're just like,
It's very early on.
Yeah,
They don't know the comedy scene,
Right, yeah.
dude. There was a couple female comics who went up, and it was like abortion material night. And my mom is the most like pro-life Kansas woman, you know, and she was just like, she was booing comics at the open mic. Dude, there's like 15 people in the room. She is the only real audience member, and she's going, boo, boo. And I'm just looking at her, I'm like, Mom, it's freaking, it's only comedians in here. They're going to know it's my mom that's booing. I brought my mom, and then I got up and the material that I decided to showcase with. And of course, like I wanted to film it too. I'm like, gotta film this. I might catch some hot material, throw up on YouTube. I used to throw my sets on YouTube. Hey, if you are a year or two into comedy, please don't post your sets to YouTube. Just wait. I know you want to show people something. Leave them curious. I used to post my clips, and I'm just like, they have since been removed. But I think the night that my mom came, I like did Pokemon material or something. That's like I sang the Pokemon song, and it was barely a joke, and I'm just like, this is great, right? Man. And then like it was the first time where I've seen like my mom like after she saw the open mic be like, after she saw the other comics and really how hard it was, like, because there wasn't an audience there.
Right.
Where I kind of saw, like, my mom would never say this, but, like, she and my sister looked like the first time, like, this is going to be a hard journey for Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Like, they, like, got a little bit of an insight. Like, this is not, like, because they've always been super supportive and been like, you know, our son's a star, like, all that stuff. Like, he's so talented, all that. But they saw an LA open mic, and I think that it shook them a little bit. Like, they're like, oh, this is not an overnight thing. This is like going to take years of doing this, like, to be seen by anybody.
Wow. And I guess it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Took a lot of years.
And it's still taking time. It's an ongoing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's when I get. Well, yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. The best close up I was, well, I appreciate you coming on. We just slowly we fade out of the background, like
we both just get up and leave.
Yeah.
We're still rolling and then slow fade out.
You should edit it where we disappear, like in the pictures from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Since these are locked off.
Yeah.
Just add some crosses all and be like, no.
Where can people find you online?
My website is jeremiahwatkins.tv, and you can follow me on social media at Jeremiah Stand Up. I post all my shows on there, and then Kill Tony is weekly. Stand Up on the Spot is every second Tuesday of the month at the Comedy Store, and yeah, come see like the Comedy Jam or Roast Battle. A lot of fun shows around town.
Certainly sounds like it. Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Jeremiah for coming on. Again, you should check out his podcast, Jeremiah Wanders. Not Wanders. I keep saying Wanders. Jeremiah Wanders. Now it just sounds like I'm saying Wanders. I don't think he wanders. I think he does it mostly in LA, but he also wonders. It is Jeremiah Wonders. So check that out. A lot of great guests. And again, if you enjoyed the episode, consider giving us that 5-star rating on iTunes. Consider it and then do it. Could you do it? Please, just for me? It would be greatly appreciated, and it is greatly appreciated. So again, you can email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page. And that is all. By the way, I know it looks like I'm standing on the sun, but It's actually raining in LA and will be all week. So no sun for me. Boo-hoo. All right, that's all I've got for this week. So until next Wednesday, keep laughing.